I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Я благодарю вас, господин председатель.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. President. Well, we'd like to start by again extending our condolences to the families of the deceased, as well as the governments of those countries whose citizens were on board the flight which crashed in Ukraine on 17th of July of last year. Russia has consistently advocated the rapid determination of reasons for the crash of MH17 and the bringing of the guilty of this tragedy to justice. Furthermore, we have repeatedly promoted the achievement of just these objectives through concrete action. The Russian delegation has done everything in its power to ensure that the Security Council, as rapidly as is possible, adopted Resolution 2166. In its preparation, we insisted on including provisions regarding the necessity to conduct a comprehensive, in-depth international investigation in keeping with guiding principles of international civil aviation, with a leading role played by ICAO. Furthermore, we were open to the immediate adoption of yet a further resolution, one which would ensure the rapid access to the crash area to the JIT. However, interested states preferred to act outside the Security Council, and on the basis of bilateral agreements with Ukraine, whose elaboration took additional time. In Resolution 2166, we insisted on the inclusion in the text of provisions regarding the immediate cessation of all military activities in the area directly adjacent to the crash site. It is the Russian Federation which, at the Security Council, raised the issue of the violation by Kiev of this provision back in August, when the Ukrainian authorities unilaterally declared that they were ending the ceasefire agreement, as a result of which the JIT was forced to suspend its work for a lengthy period of time. Within the framework of the technical investigation, Russian experts, pursuant to Annex 13 to the Convention on International Civil Aviation, transferred to the Dutch side all information which was requested from us, including radar station data of the Rostov Center of Air Traffic Control System. Following a few days after the disaster, the Russian Ministry of Defense conducted a briefing on which it fully disseminated all Russian satellite data. They were also sent to the Dutch side. Its analysis and their calculations regarding one of the versions of the disaster, namely that the flight was shot down by an air-ground Buk-type missile, was sent to the Netherlands by the experts of the Russian manufacturing enterprise Alma-Santey. To do this, the secrecy seal on the data of the technical characteristics of such missiles was lifted. Russia was the only country which has made public such data. Unfortunately, following a year after the adoption of Resolution 2166, serious issues remain regarding how the investigation is being conducted. Russian experts were not provided equal access to the various elements of the technical investigation. They unilaterally provide their calculations and their expertise, but remain in the dark regarding what happens further with this information. We have proposed to provide qualified experts and equipment to conduct complex work. For example, metallurgical analysis, which would have enabled us to, on the basis of analysis of pieces of wreckage, to determine the type of missile which brought down the plane. All of this remained unanswered. Turning now to criminal prosecution. Well, it is carried out by the members of the GIT in a closed fashion. It was said that an agreement was reached between 5 sides on not disseminating information. In this case, what are the grounds to be assured of the impartiality of such an investigation? Can this investigation resist the aggressive propaganda backdrop in the media? Can it resist pressure of clear political origin when the causes and the disasters and those who are guilty of this disaster are named in advance? And such statements are made by a number of leaders of certain states which form part of the JIT. The Russian Federation was the only country which recalled that Resolution 2166 provided for comprehensive assistance to be brought to the investigation by the United Nations. We propose to consider the creation of the post of an SRSG, which would have promoted genuine international and transparent investigations. However, this proposal of ours was not accepted. What was also unfulfilled was the instruction to the Secretary General, pursuant to Security Council Resolution 2166, to submit to the Security Council for consideration a comprehensive set of options for assistance to be brought by the United Nations for the investigations. What did we receive instead? Well, something which was summarily prepared outside the Security Council without careful consideration of the various options for a criminal prosecution. Well, we had a security draft of the Security Council resolution under Chapter 7. Our position that this is premature, it hasn't been elaborated carefully, it was something which went unheeded. We came up with an alternative draft resolution of the Security Council of the United Nations aimed at ensuring that we fully harness the potential of Resolution 2166 and to ensure a genuine international independent nature for the investigation. After having achieved this objective, we could have revisited the issue of considering the legal mechanisms for bringing those guilty to justice. We would like to underscore that the document annexed by us remains on the table. What is contained in it, the proposals, the ideas, are ones which we continue to deem topical. We have repeatedly stated that we do not back the idea of the creation of a tribunal under Chapter 7 of the UN. There are no grounds for this, mindful of the fact that the Security Council in Resolution 2166 did not classify the Boeing tragedy as a threat to international peace and security. It is difficult to explain how the events which took place, which a year ago were not deemed to be a threat to international peace and security, now all of a sudden have become just that. In principle, issues of organizing judicial prosecutions does not fall within the remit of the Security Council. There were very well-known exceptions regarding determining those who were guilty for mass crimes, which were deemed by the international community to be the most severe ones. However, the experience of the former tribunals for Yugoslavia and Rwanda cannot be considered to be positive, mindful of the fact that they were very expensive, that they took a long time to carry out the work, that they were subject to political pressure, and so forth. The precedent of the creation of international tribunals by the Council to bring to justice those who are responsible for disasters to transport means are not known in principles. This is something which also happened in Russia, of course. In 2001, a Sibir plane, was shot down over Black Sea by the Ukrainian anti-aircraft missiles. Then one spoke there was also the Iran Air plane, which was brought down in 1988 over the Gulf by a missile which was shot from an American destroyer. The international investigations that were carried out back then in Ukraine and the United States of America did not determine that a crime had been carried out. But the Security Council Resolution 616 adopted following the death and shooting down of the Iranian airliner was not qualified as a threat to international peace and security. Another example, in 2010, Russia came up with an initiative on creating a special international tribunal to prosecute pirates. We were prompted to do this by the unprecedented growth in the number of pirate attacks off the coast of Somalia. Effective mechanisms for the prosecution of pirates didn't exist back then. Those who were caught on the seas were very often simply released. In this, the idea of an international tribunal on pirates did not enjoy support within the Security Council, despite the fact that the classification of the situation as one which threatens international peace and security was quite clear. Arguments regarding the lack of efficiency and the fact that such mechanisms were difficult to implement were then heard as main arguments, especially from those who now back the draft on the Boeing. In such a way, we're forced to note that the draft, which was submitted for voting today, was deprived of any legal basis or any precedent. We have repeatedly explained this to our colleagues, and we called upon them to consider alternatives. However, the sponsors of the draft refused to act in spirit of cooperation, submitted it for a vote, knowing in advance that this would not lead to a positive result. This, in our view, indicates the fact that political purposes were more important for them than practical objectives. This, of course, is regrettable. Mr. President, by way of conclusion, I would like to underscore that Russia stands ready to cooperate in the conduct of a full, independent and objective investigation of the reasons and circumstances of the crash of the Malaysian airliner based on the provisions of Resolution 2166 to identify those guilty and to punish them. The position which we have adopted today has nothing in common with promoting impunity. I thank you, sir.